For joining us, and we're glad to have you here.
All right. Thanks so much, Kylie. Thanks everyone for taking time out of your day today to kind of join in and listen to the presentation. Hopefully it's informative and helps out, with questions that you might have and any, potential ideas or offerings that could come up, or if these, benefit your population of employees. So as Kylie mentioned, my name is Dan Burkey. I am with Lifetime Benefit Solutions. I am a sales consultant, and I've been with LBS now for a little over 10 years. Started in the client service side, so more so like the account service end, and then moved into the sales side just a couple of years ago. So again, thanks again for taking the time today. So I will share my screen and hopefully we can all. All right. So just to kind of kick things off here. So the main focus of the presentation today is going to be on the flexible spending accounts, HRAs, and HSAs. Quick agenda here, just to kind of overview what we're going to talk through. We'll give you just a brief introduction to LBS, talk through those product offerings. We'll touch on some of the experiences you can expect as a client, and then also what members can experience through Lifetime Benefit Solutions. And then we'll touch on some of the self-service tools and some resources for you. And then obviously, feel free to ask questions if those come up. So first off, just to kind of kick things off with who LBS is. So LBS has been around, through a variety of name changes over the years, but has been in the employee benefits business for 50 plus years now. So we've kind of gone through all the different updates and changes and things along the way with regards to, the insurance and health care industry. Wanted to highlight some of the retentions and things that we're very proud of here at LBS. From a client side, we do have a 99.8 current client retention. So, I think that speaks volumes to the level of service that we provide, where, we can bring in new groups, but we can service them, very well in terms that they tend to stay with LBS over the years. Also highlighting on there, we do have, between our sales side as well as our client service and reimbursement side, an average of 14 and 17 years experience on both ends. So obviously, not only retaining clients that we have, but also, our team sticks together and is, been with the LBS for a number of years. So, you're not having to worry about necessarily, new people popping up all the time. You'll have those dedicated team members that you'll be able to lean on from year to year. So why LBS? So few highlights here. Flexibility. So, we know their traditional healthcare plans, they cover those medical, dental insurances. And that's kind of where we can come in and fill some of those gaps in between. So we offer a lot of those kind of ancillary style benefits that can kind of pair nicely with those traditional healthcare plans. Lower costs. So generally with reimbursement plans, we look to make things as cost efficient for each of our groups that we bring on. And as part of the Greater Tompkins Consortium, we do offer preferred pricing that is in place for a number of our products that we have through LBS. So definitely a nice benefit, a nice offering to kind of encourage, if you're interested in those, it can definitely help, hopefully from a cost perspective. So high tech meets high touch. So obviously in the world that we're in now, technology is such a, important part of, everyday life. So we're always looking to make way for things to, be easier for members, have those technology pieces, mobile apps, online portals and things of that nature in order to make navigating and, managing, your accounts much easier and much simpler. So as I kind of touched on the last slide, a true partnership. You do have a number of resources here at LBS. We have the dedicated sales team. You have day-to-day reimbursement, account reps that you can work with, a client service consultant. We have a client or a compliance team behind the scenes. So any type of questions that could come up with regards to any of the products that you would have through LBS, we do have the resources behind you to help get those questions and things that come up answered. And then ease of doing business. So we offer a lot of different ways to kind of make doing business with LBS nice and easy. We work with a variety of HRIS vendors through setting up enrollment file feeds, so making things just much simpler to kind of take some maybe manual tasks of enrolling people off your plates, things like that. So touching on our product offerings. So as we mentioned, the main focus for the presentation today is going to be primarily on those flexible spending, health reimbursement, and health savings accounts. We just wanted to include this slide as well, just for additional reference, just to kind of highlight all the products and services that are available to you throughout Lifetime Benefit Solutions. So if you ever come across anything that maybe employees are asking about, just you have a resource here that we handle a variety of different products and services. So starting with the compliance services, we do the COBRA and premium billing. We also offer employee education benefits, and we do have a few pharmacy programs that we have a dedicated team specific for. So just so you have all the resources available to you here. I wanted to include this slide. I know it might be a little bit hard to read, but I know Kylie has a copy of the presentation. So, even for additional reference after the fact, you can kind of maybe zoom in a little bit more. But this just provides a real nice kind of side-by-side comparison of, what each of the accounts are, who the owner is, how contributions are done. So it's just kind of like a quick reference guide that you can check into, maybe doesn't have all the details of everything. And there's obviously more, comparisons and differences between them, but just a nice quick overview if you're kind of looking at a quick glance of, what makes these different, what makes them similar, and how can they, interact. All right, so diving into some of the meat here of the presentation. So I wanted to kick off here with the flexible spending account, or the FSA. So the FSA is an account that members can put money into on a pre-tax basis. So it helps reduce, their overall taxable income, and put it into a dedicated account that they can go ahead and then use for those eligible expenses. One of the popular accounts, we have the healthcare FSA. So these are, again, the FSA is generally funded by employees. The employer does have the ability to make contributions to it, but I will say I don't see that too often. It is generally like an employee-specific account that employees contribute to. But like I said, if you want to, as an employer, you do have the ability to. This is an employer-owned account. So even though the employees are making contributions to it through those pre-tax payroll contributions, the employer is the owner of the account. The one thing to note with the FSAs is they are a use it or lose it account. So members can make their contributions, and if funds are not used by the end of the specific plan year, they are, as I mentioned, use it or lose it. So they can lose those available funds. Now with the FSA, you do have the ability to set up a rollover or a grace period. So the grace period is basically a 2.5-month extension to the plan year, which just allows members some extra time to be able to use any remaining funds they might have. The rollover allows members to essentially carry over a portion of their funds, remaining funds, into the next plan year. So, it kind of helps with employees that sometimes are on the fence, maybe with should they elect an FSA? Maybe I elect too much. I don't want the use it or lose it. That could be kind of a scary feature to them. So there are ways around to make it a little bit more enticing to those employees. So diving into the account types that we have, you have the traditional healthcare FSA, and this is going to cover just such a wide range of eligible expenses. So, your medical, dental, vision, prescriptions, outlined here, your co-pays, co-insurance, but it can even be used for things such as Band-Aids or cough medicine. So some of those over-the-counter items. So it has a really wide range of uses that you can use the FSA for, which can come in handy as you're setting those elections aside. With the healthcare FSA, whatever contribution that employees would make, they do have those funds made available to them starting day one. So if an employee, for instance, elects $2,000 to their FSA for the year, at the day one of the plan year, that full $2,000 will be available for them to use. And then over the course of the year through those payroll deductions is where those $2,000 will be spread out. The current maximum for 2026 for the medical FSA is $3,400. So that is the most an employee can contribute to their FSA. Generally, each year, the IRS kind of reviews and can make any adjustments to them. Over the last few years, I will note that the medical FSA has traditionally gone up around maybe $30, $40, $50, somewhere in that range. So it has tended to increase each year, but every year is different. Next up, we have the dependent care FSA. So this is, going to be traditionally for, parents that have kids in daycare, after school programs, babysitters. So for those dependents that are under the age of 13, obviously we know with, the high costs of, childcare and whatnot these days, it's, definitely helpful setting these funds aside, again, on a pre-tax basis that they can use for these expenses. One of the differences, though, with dependent care compared to the FSA, or the healthcare FSA, is the dependent care grows as those payroll contributions are made. So the current maximum for the dependent care is $7,500. But you will not get access to that full $7,500 starting day one like you do with the healthcare FSA. They're going to grow over the course of those payroll contributions going in. So it's one thing to keep in mind, for any members that elect the dependent care as they're going to, maybe pay a daycare provider, to know what the available funds within the dependent care account are. Lastly, we have the limited purpose FSA. So this is the FSA option that is compatible with the HSA. The limited purpose is limited to just covering only dental and vision expenses. So this account still allows some of the, still has the same $3,400 maximum contribution that can be made. But in order for it to be paired with the HSA, it limits on what expenses are eligible. So you will be able to, have an FSA that could be paired if you're looking to add both accounts. Next up, we have the HRA. So a little bit different from the FSA, and an HRA is a fully funded by the employer. So employees are not eligible to contribute in any way to an HRA. With that, though, you as the employer would have full control over how you would like the plan set up. So you really have a lot of ways to get kind of creative, based off of maybe budgetary restrictions or how you would want the plan to operate. So in terms of any funding arrangements that you would like to make available for employees, you can set that amount. You can control what expenses are eligible under the HRA. So, one of the things that we see quite frequently is deductibles, being covered. If they pair an HRA with like a high deductible health plan, for instance, you can limit the HRA to only cover deductible expenses. So you can really kind of customize and make the plan specific as to, how it fits your needs and your employees best. So as I mentioned, the HRA is employer money only. So the employer is the one that owns the account. So employee leaves, the funds remain with you as the employer. A few different options that are available through, beyond just the standard HRA. We do have a limited purpose HRA, so very similar to the limited purpose FSA, in that the HRA would only cover just dental and vision expenses. And this option here makes the HRA qualified to participate with, and pair with an HSA. Next up here, we have a post-deductible HRA. So this particular plan, and I have another slide, couple down, that we'll go over a little bit more thorough, but this is another option that the HRA can be paired with the HSA so that both plans can operate together, but so that they're also compliant based off the IRS guidelines. We do also offer a retiree HRA. So if you do have retirees and you'd like to be able to continue to contribute to those employees after they retire, we do offer that option for an HRA. And then lastly here, we have the individual coverage HRA, or the ICHRA, as you may have heard of it referred to. And this is just a separate plan where an employer can set aside funds where members, instead of, going through a traditional health plan, they can pick their own plan through like the New York Exchange or the marketplace, and pick a plan that's more suitable for them, rather than an employer offering, say, a traditional healthcare plan. Next up, we have the HSA. So HSA or Health Savings Account is a tax advantaged account, but it must be paired with a high deductible health plan. So unlike where an HRA or even an FSA, can kind of fit with any style, copay plan, the HSA must be paired with a high deductible health plan. This, unlike the FSA and HRA, this is an employee account. So this is something that the employees will be owned by them. So employees can make contributions, but also you as the employer can also make a contribution to the HSA. It's not a requirement, but it is an option that employers do sometimes offer on behalf of their employees. Employees own 100% of those funds. And one thing with the HSA is that it is portable. So members can take this with them from, any employer that they move to. This is their account that they can use, that travels with them basically for life. So, any of those funds that are contributed can be used to pay for, those qualified medical expenses. Another feature that makes the HSA a little bit different from the HRA and the FSA is that the HSA can also work as like a retirement vehicle as well. So while you can pair this and pay for, those qualified healthcare expenses, you can also make those contributions and save the funds, for down the road or at any point. So you're not required to use them, or you don't have a time limit that you would need to use them like within a specific plan year. So that is a nice feature to the HSA for those employees. Another thing you may have heard with an HSA is it's triple tax advantage. So similar to the FSA, pre-tax contributions. So any contributions that employees make through payroll come through as pre-tax. All the funds that are contributed to the HSA grow tax-free. Then for any qualified expenses that the HSA is used for, those are considered tax-free withdrawals. So a lot of benefits to the HSA for those employees.
Yeah, and there was a question in the chat. Is there a formal definition of a high deductible health plan, such as a certain deductible level for pairing with an HSA?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Sure. Is there a formal definition of a high deductible health plan, such as certain deductible level for pairing with an HSA?
So I don't know. So with LBS, I forgot to mention in the beginning, we are a sister company of Excelis. I don't know all the specific ins and outs of each of the Excelis plans. I know, for instance, one of the more common ones that we see a lot of that compare with are what's called the Bronze 4 plan. And we do see that plan offered quite frequently. So the HSA has to meet those, and I'll want to get some more details, and I can follow up with the specifics within the particular health plan itself as to what makes that qualified as high deductible versus maybe a high deductible health plan that isn't HSA qualified, because they can be there can be two different variances of the high deductible health plan. I don't want to speak incorrectly, so I can follow up after and kind of give the breakdown of here's the highlights between those two plans.
So every year the IRS does announce an inflationary adjustment. So it's kind of like the minimum deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums to have a plan deemed a high deductible health plan. So for 2026, the minimum deductible was $1,700 single, $3,400 family. Out of pocket was $8,500 individual and 17,000 family. I don't have those memorized, Dan. I quickly looked them up
Yeah.
to assist in the question, but those are the minimum requirements per IRS
Yeah.
rules.
Yes, and I actually had a couple of those that I was going to touch on. But yeah, I thought it was more so like if there's specific requirements within the high deductible health plan outside of. So I apologize if I misunderstood the question in regards to the eligible amounts that are contributed to.
Okay.
So also with the as I mentioned, the HSA can also be used for, a lot of times as a retirement vehicle. So HSAs have the ability where you can actually take funds that you have contributed to and invest those for future growth. So for down the road, as those retirement accounts through the Lifetime Benefit Solutions member portal, they'll have the full availability to manage everything with their HSA, but there's also a link to be able to go through and work through any investment opportunities that they'd like to do with those HSA funds to help those grow, so that they, if an employee wants to use them more so for, say, once they retire and they have, Medicare premiums or things that they're going to have to pay for down the road, they can take those funds, help them grow over time. So we do have a portfolio manager where you can work through. We have, some preset like mutual funds that are available that you can review, look at, see if those work best. But you can also, kind of manage it and do things on your own. So however employees would see fit, to take those funds and use them for, any future opportunities or things down the road. So next up, how can some of these plans work together? So I know we kind of touched on them just a little bit, but just wanted to have a slide that kind of encompassed, how the different plans, how they can be paired with one another, how they would work, what makes them compatible to fit within those IRS guidelines. So first off, just kick through the FSA HRA. So both plans can be used simultaneously. What we would do within LBS is we would set up ordering rules to determine which plan would be primary. So if the HRA is set as the primary payer, once a claim is run through, it will first look to the HRA, and if it is an eligible expense under the HRA, it will process and pay through the HRA funds that are available. If, for instance, it is a dental expense and dental is not covered under the HRA, it would then fall to and come through the FSA plan. So you are able to kind of compare those plans together to kind of maximize, employee contributions and then anything else the employer might like to contribute as well. Next bullet is for the FSA and the HSA. So I know we did touch on this a little bit earlier, but the FSA, in order to be compatible with the HSA, would need to be set up as the limited purpose FSA, which again just covers those dental and vision expenses. Then lastly, with the HRA, HSA, again, we have the HRA would have to be set up as a limited purpose HRA. So again, covers just the dental and vision expenses only. The other option would be the post-deductible HRA. And Kylie, this is where you had mentioned some of those IRS minimums. So employees would need to meet, and it's an IRS statutory minimum deductible. So I do want to point out that would be different than the medical plan deductible. So the required deductible that would need to be met before the HRA can begin reimbursing for any claims. So for 2026, the self-only coverage would be $1,700. Family coverage would be $3,400. So those are the amounts that, again, employees would have to meet prior to the HRA kicking in and being able to reimburse any of those expenses. In the meantime, leading up to those amounts being met, the HSA can be used to help cover and offset some of those upfront expenses. But then once the $1,700, for example, is met, the HRA would kick in, and that would become the primary going forward for any of those expenses that are eligible under the HRA. So just something that can be kind of referred back to, and obviously if there's, other plan designs or, details that can come up, obviously we can talk through and go further in depth, but just to kind of have a quick resource for, what plans can be paired together and what focal product offerings we could do to set those up. So for the spending accounts, so the difference with LBS, we'll touch on some of these a little bit more in depth, but it kind of just encompasses everything all in one slide here. So we do have the ability to set up an automatic claims transfer. So we can receive claims to as a sister company of Excelis, we can receive a claims file from them that we can use to view claims in the background. So for instance, with the post-deductible HRA, before that $1,700 is met, we will review any deductible related expenses that come through on the back end and track those internally. So that kind of helps relieve some of the pieces that the members would need to do on their end. And then once that $1,700 is met, for instance, we could then go through and fund the HRA. So we can receive a lot of that information behind the scenes to kind of help track and alleviate some of employees having to manage day-to-day things. From a billing perspective, no matter how many products you might have with LBS, we are able to condense those all into one invoice. So instead of receiving, separate invoice or reimbursement products, and then maybe if you have Cobra, instead of getting two invoices, you're going to have everything condensed just onto one. We do offer, have available employer portals as well as member portals to kind of help go through, navigate any sort of information that you would need pertaining to, the accounts that you would have with lifetime benefit solutions. The integration, talked about this a little bit earlier, but we are able to work with a variety of payroll vendors to receive any of those enrollment files. So anytime employees are hired, instead of having to go through and maybe submit every single one of them into the portal, we can work with the HRIS vendor, receive those enrollments as they're submitted on your end, and then they will feed over and enter into the LBS system. From an education perspective, we do have open enrollment toolkits. We have marketing materials that we can provide for each of the individual products. We have some geared towards employer specific. We have employee specific materials just to kind of give some of those overviews as to what the product is, and then some of the other offerings that members and you as the employer have eligible through LBS. Lastly, with the accounts, every one of the reimbursement accounts can be paired with a health spending card. So just kind of a image of it here of what it would look like. The nice thing with the debit card is if you have one account, if you have two accounts, we can condense everything onto the same card. So the card will be smart enough to know which account is primary, which account needs to be paid first. So you can have everything under the same card as opposed to multiple cards that you have to kind of figure out which is which to use for certain expenses. Eases the burden of having to file any manual claims. So you go pick up a prescription, instead of having to pay out of pocket, submit a claim to get reimbursed, you can swipe that card to use and have it processed right there, walk away with your script. The auto substantiation. So as mentioned, we do receive those claims files in the background from Excelis. So we are reviewing any claims that come through on the back end first to match everything to make sure that they are in fact eligible expenses under the plans. So that helps alleviate, members having to submit additional documentation. That still can occur. We don't receive all the specific details on the claim file that we receive, but we try to do a lot of the work on the back end to help alleviate members having to submit additional information to, confirm the eligibility of a claim. There is no charge to add any debit cards to the product offering. There's no charge if additional cards are needed or a card is lost or stolen, for instance. Those cards can be requested at any time. At the opening of account, you'll receive 2 cards right up front, but if additional are needed, like I said, no additional fees to add those. Another nice feature that I didn't mention with the FSA, but there is a great resource called the FSA store that really kind of gives a full overview of every FSA eligible product. But you can also purchase directly from that site. So if there's something specific that you're looking for that is eligible under the FSA and you wanted to use those funds for it, this card works in conjunction with that FSA store to get those specific products.
Dan, there's another question in the chat. If your employer does not offer the HSA, but you want a self-funded HSA, is that okay? And I would make the assumption that they're on a high deductible health plan because they would have to be to get an HSA.
Right. Yes. Yep. So the employee would have to be enrolled within the high deductible health plan. But yes, I know, banks and offer HSAs that are available, so employees can go through that resource as well. So yes, it's not we do we do a bunch of HSAs, but it is we do have the admin fee that goes along with it. Where sometimes if you do go to a bank, um, you can get it for at a minimal cost as well. But this way you have everything kind of set all in one place. It's easier as the employer to set things up through, lifetime benefit solutions where we can get everything entered into the system. So you have everything all in one place, whereas opposed to maybe employees are going to different banks to open up those HSAs and keeping track. Plus, the other piece of it too is if you were looking to potentially add, say, like an HRA account to pair with it. If the HSA is through LBS, we can kind of see a lot of the details on the back end. Whereas if an employee has it through an outside vendor, we can't always know everything that's being, um, handled through the HSA. So it's from compliance perspective, we have a little bit more insight and can just make sure that things are operating the way they should. So one of the additional benefits of adding that HSA through administrator like LBS.
Yeah, the pairing definitely makes sense to keep an eye on both sides of it. I have seen with other municipalities, they do allow their employees to go out and select an HSA, and then it's essentially a limiting bank account, and then they can set it up as a direct payroll deduction with their employer.
Yep.
And then there was another question in here. Is the FSA store a link from the LBS portal for employees?
I'm not sure if it's directly on the portal. It is. We do have a direct link from our website. So you can go to the lifetimebenefitsolutions.com and there is an FSA store link right from there that you can access.
I know there's one on the app as well because I use the app.
Yeah.
That's my
Okay. Yep.
handy
Yeah.
dandy go-to, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I haven't been on the portal in a little bit, but yes. So yeah, you can access through there, but or just, going through the traditional website, but yeah, multiple different ways that you can access the FSA store. I did also want to note with the debit card as well, on the back of the debit card actually has the customer service line for members. So in the event that they need to, check something, right away, they have quick access that they can pull out their card and have the LBS customer service line available to them. So always at their fingertips as well. All right, so the integration with the health plan. So I've touched on this now already for a few slides, but so won't go too much more into the automatic claims transfer. Again, that is just an additional benefit that we have with our relationship with Excelis, that we can receive those additional claims files in the background to kind of help alleviate some of the manual work that employees would potentially need to do on their end. Another nice benefit too is for any employee that logs into their Excelis online portal, they can also have a single sign-on capability to any of the LBS related accounts that they would have with us. So if they're checking one thing, they can easily navigate right over to us without having to open a new tab, go to LBS, and sign in and view things from there. So just a few of the additional perks for those employees to kind of just make things just a little bit easier from a navigation standpoint. Okay, so from a client experience, so you will have access to an online employer portal where you'll be able to view any of the LBS related products that you have with us. You'll be able to pull up any reporting, check enrollment, view any claim status, if members have questions on. It's all going to fall under, covers like those HIPAA regulations, so that way you're not seeing more than what you're supposed to see. So we make sure all those pieces are covered, but just allows you to really kind of track and navigate any utilization things that are going on with the plan. You'll also have access to a annual renewal portal. So each year, as the plan's set up for review, if you need to make any sort of updates or changes to your current plan design, you'll be able to do so right through that portal. You'll also be able to make any adjustments from an enrollment standpoint. So we can provide a dedicated enrollment spreadsheet that has all employees that are already listed out, and you can just make adjustments to those as opposed to having to go through and maybe fill out, if this person termed, you can just make the adjustments right on there. So we try to make it as simple as possible, during those renewal periods. So for our service model that you'll have, so as I mentioned, you have, multiple teams that can support you through LBS. So starting from the sales side of things, to get any of the new products, created and set up within the system. And then once things are live and active, and just operating as they should, you will have a dedicated client service consultant who oversees your entire relationship with LBS. So there's going to be times where you may have questions that you're unsure of who would be able to help answer those, or if you have an issue that arises that needs escalation, you have a dedicated team member there that is able to kind of act as your voice throughout LBS. You'll also have a dedicated reimbursement team that will be able to help with any of the day-to-day type questions with regards to the reimbursement accounts that you have. So if there's adjustments that need to be made for an employee, or they come to you with claims questions that you're possibly unsure of or need to check to see if we've received, they'll be able to navigate and go through all those pieces with you at a high level. They can also assist with any issues or questions with relation to the employer portal or the renewal portal as well. But also, as I mentioned, we have a compliance team behind the scenes. Those plan doc pieces from that end. We have the resources internally to kind of help address any questions or concerns that come up with regards to those products with LBS. From a member experience, so members will also have access to their own personal member portal. So any accounts that they would have through LBS, they'll be able to see and access directly from there. We have a mobile app that is available to employees, which I'll touch on in just a moment. Communications can be set up as automated, so employees can receive those electronically, and then be able to access those, whether it's via email or be able to see those, through those portals as well. And then obviously from the payment options, as we reviewed the debit card, so that is something that's in place for members to use to make using those accounts easier and seamless as they're visiting those or have services or expenses that come up. So through the online spending account, really gives you everything that you would need to track and manage everything with the specific accounts that an employee would have. So they can review all of the account activity, file claims, any supporting documentation that would be needed can all be uploaded and handled directly through the online portal. And we also do, as I mentioned, have the mobile app. So very similar to what you can do in the online portal, but for those who, would prefer to do things, much more through their phone, free app to download. You can use, do all the same things you can do on the online portal directly through the mobile app as well. One of the key benefits of using the mobile app is in the event that we do need additional documentation to confirm the eligibility of a claim. An employee can simply take a picture of, say, their explanation of benefits or the invoice that they receive from their provider, take a picture and submit it directly through the mobile app. So instead of having to send anything via paper methods or email or fax things in, you can simply just snap that picture and send that over, and it goes directly to our claims team for processing. So speeds things up on the back end, and it gets everything directly to where it needs to go. So makes things much easier to navigate. You always have access to your account right at your fingertips. Another piece just to mention too, as I see the dependent care FSA is listed. So as I mentioned earlier, with the dependent care, funds are not always eligible right away. They grow through those payroll contributions that are made. So anytime an employee who has the dependent care is going, to a daycare provider and looking to confirm if they have enough, funds to cover for that particular day, again, pull the mobile app up, see it right in front, just to, before making any adjustments. So always know what you'll have available. Just wanted to add just some basic claims and customer service information. You'll be able to find a lot of this on our website as well, but just for claims processing, as I mentioned, you have the online portal, the mobile app, or if you just have those employees that aren't comfortable with technology, they can still go through the paper versions via fax or mail as well. And then just the customer service information here, more information you'll be able to find through our website as well. All right, so I know there was quite a bit of information that kind of reviewed. Just wanted to kind of open it up to any additional questions that you might have.
I have a question about the an HRA. So the employer owns it. It's fully funded by the employer. Is it front loaded like a FSA, or how is that one?
Yes. So in most cases, that is what employers elect to do. You can set it up, say we're going to fund a certain amount on a monthly basis.
Okay.
But it makes it a little bit more tricky that way, because that way, say you're offering employees $5,000, that they can use for their HRA, they're only going to get, divide that 5,000 by, 12 months. They're only going to receive a portion of that to use for that month. And then they would have to wait to the next month, for example, to receive the next portion. So with the HRA, in most cases, we do see employers provide, if it's that 5,000, for example, employees will have that available to them right at the beginning of the plan year. With that being said, though, you as the employer, you wouldn't have to set aside that full $5,000 into an account for that employee or each employee. You would only be invoiced just based off of what has actually been spent.
Okay,
so
that's what it is.
Yep. So if that in a given week, a member only spent, or between the whole plan, $1,000 was spent, that's all that you would be invoiced for in terms of reimbursement, for that claims funding period.
Okay, so if there were like 5,000 for 2 or 3 employees, but then they're only billed for what is used. But
Exactly.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the questions that I've been asked is from a member who retired, didn't keep the health insurance, but had an HRA while they were working, and was wondering why they don't have access to the funds once they retire.
Yeah, so that would be an employer determination. When we set up the HRA plans, that is an option that employers have where they can continue to offer the HRA. Oh, I'm sorry. To retirees. So they can continue to provide on an annual basis, just like they would for active employees, they can provide them with, a new contribution each year. In some instances, as the employer, you can make it like a spend down account. So once that employee retires, whatever they have left, they can just spend that down. But in a lot of cases, we do see that with an HRA, because it is those employer funds that they're providing, once an employee retires, we do see a lot of times they elect to, retirees are no longer eligible to use those. But it is completely up to you as the employer how you would like to handle that.
And in that case, any outstanding monies that were unused would be returned to the employer if they opted to
Correct.
not fund it for the retiree.
Correct.
The other kind of issue we've run into is municipalities who offer a high deductible health plan and their members are swiping their HRA or their HSA card before Excellus is billed for the claims. So in essence, they're paying the retail rate instead of the allowable rate for a claim. So then the HRA or HSA is paying the balance bill, right? The difference between retail and allowable. And now they're getting, audited, and LBS is saying these claims don't match up.
Right.
Is there any preventative measures that can be done to prohibit that process?
So unfortunately through LBS, we don't have control over how the providers can bill. We always encourage employees to let those providers know that they do have a high deductible health plan. And so that the appropriate method is that they bill the insurance company and let the claim process through, the correct method that way, as opposed to paying upfront. Like you had mentioned, if a member is asked to pay a upfront fee for a service, and then once it runs through insurance, it turns out they've paid more than they should have. Now that employee is having to go back working through with the provider to get any sort of reimbursement. It's not something we always hear of, but it is from time to time we've, have groups that have shared there are particular providers that they know of that require, maybe a upfront payment prior to services being rendered. But in most cases, we do see that providers, if an employee mentions that they do have that high deductible health plan, they run it through the proper channels to make sure that everything is processed and handled the way it should be. But unfortunately, from our end, we can't tell or control how a provider sets up that billing.
I'm not seeing other questions in the chat. Some of the questions that came in, I was able to answer as they were coming in. They were more plan related than HRA and HSA related. So if there's no more questions, I'll just throw up a quick shameless plug here. So thank you for your time and participation in today's session. We hope that the overviews of the FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs has provided greater clarity and practical insight into how these accounts function across different plan types. As a follow-up, the slide deck and a recording of today's presentation will be shared with you next week. Please also note that all of our education series sessions are available on our website under the Employer tab, should you wish to revisit this or prior topics. We invite you to join us for session 3 on April 23rd at 3 p.m. Lots of threes there, led by our executive director, Elin Dowd. This session will cover updates to our plan management policy, the municipal cooperative agreement, and our plan selection framework. You can register using the link provided in the chat. Thanks, Jess. And thank you again for your continued engagement. We look forward to seeing you at the next session. Thank you, Dan, for the presentation.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.